Well, it's kind of windy, so hopefully you can hear what I'm saying, but doing this video, just kind of talking about recycling, repurpose, basically doing it for a good friend, Mr. Luke Simons. Kind of inspired this for me, so just going to go through some things that we are repurposing, recycling, etc. So, no particular order, just start looking at things. This, when we bought our place, this just kind of came with it. It's kind of a toolbox supposed to go in the back of a pickup. It's not very good, kind of junky, and I don't have the key for it. And so now it's my tinder box, and I got to break that stuff down. But some bark and little lumber scraps, lumber cut-offs, whatever, all good for starting fires. So then, since we're talking fires, my firewood rack, step back and you can get a look at it. I got 4 of them right there. A little one right there. This one here is my wooden split full of knots, or doesn't need to split pile. Kind of working on that. Look back to the firewood rack. This right here, just bags of leaves against the side for insulation. All of the skirting along the side of the house is all insulated, except right here. This is the access door for where my heat tapes and stuff plug in. And this isn't really a recycle thing, but I was just struggling with how to do this, and I came up with this concept. So I'll pull this off here real quick. Nothing real fancy, but I went down to the hardware store. I got some machine screws and wing nuts, and I'm not going to be able to pull that off without taking the whole thing off, but machine screw obviously, and then the wing nut that fits it. And then what you don't see is on the back side of here, I got one of them little metal speed nuts, just a little basically black chunk of metal that they bent right so it fits this. But I screwed that all the way onto the screw, so that's solid, that won't move. Then you put my panel on, screwing these wing nuts on, and since it's not insulated, got these bags of leaves I raked up to insulate that spot, unlike the rest of it that has fiberglass glued to the back of it. So back to my wood rack. Pretty simple design. On the bottom I got a standard construction cinder block, one on each side. And then there's these beams. This is just kind of pallet wood or dunnage or whatever you want to call it. Where I work, we get a lot of sheet metal in, and they come in stacked on this stuff, and they just throw it away. So I bring it home and make racks out of it. And then when you're done, see, like this rack, this layer is about half empty. When you're done, you can take and chop this down into burnable size lengths, and this is, I don't know what it is, but it's really, really hard wood. Burns really good. And then for the sides, I just have a big round, really wet, not burnable this winter, that I cut a little longer and I cut even on both sides and stack it like that. Well then, this design I got, more or less got from a friend of mine. This is kind of my adaptation. What he did is he put 2x4s in the holes in the cinder block, and they stick out like this, and it just looks kind of trashy, but it works. But so we did this instead, and it seems to work better, because like this one, now that it's got all the weight of this layer on top of it, this thing is rock solid. It ain't gonna move. But the way he did it is he actually had 3 cinder blocks. But we did something a little different. We got the standard, I think it's 8x8x16 on either end. And then in the middle, we got, I think it's 4x8x16. It's like half size on either end, and then another chunk of that dunnage that goes across, and that supports the middle of 4 racks. So you save a little bit there. Total cost of this rack right here, not counting my time cutting wood, I've got about $4, because the big cinder blocks are about $1.50 a piece, and the other one's about $1. Everything else was free. All I had to do was haul it home or cut it up or whatever. Same deal here. I'll show you here. This is kind of, I was talking about the 2x4s. This is kind of the idea that my friend has. He showed me this. Basically, you stick those in there, and the wood will support, or will push on it, and it'll kind of hold itself together. But I just don't like the way it looks, and neither did my wife, and she came up with this adaptation of another thing that we'd seen. So anyways, moving on. Splitting wood, you you split your round and you get nice little splits like this. But then when you hit it, when it finally splits, they go flying everywhere. So the old thing people used to do was you set your round inside a tire and split it. Well, the tire moves around, whatever. So I kind of took this idea from Wrangler Star, to give credit where it's due here. But he built this deal out of 6x6s. I think he milled them himself. But I kind of took, the classic chopping block. This is just a big log. And his tire idea, what I did is I took his 2x4s, just a couple scraps I had laying around, not really using for anything else. You look, I screwed these into the log, and then I screwed through the tire into the 2x4, so now I can actually lift this whole unit up by the tire. And there again, I cut the log, I had the 2x4s laying around from something, and the tire is just a junk tire that I got for free, but it works really good. Oh, let's see what else. So, sawhorses. I don't have any sawhorses. Didn't really want to go buy any. But I had these two stools. They're kind of old and kind of ratty. But turns out, you take these stools and spread them out whatever length you need. They work pretty good. And I was putting a pole barn tin on my entryway there. It flopped. They're not very wide. It kind of flops all over. So, not this, because this is just a little 1x2. We used 2x6 when we did it. You take this, and you set it on the stool, and voila. Now your sawhorse is wider, and if you really wanted to, you could take and put a screw in there and it would hold it more steady, but it wasn't. We didn't have any problem with that. So this here, haven't done it yet, but just kind of, you see people make hose reels and stuff out of an old rim. Well, this, when I bought my place, was hanging on the wall, and I didn't really want it hanging on the wall. So, it's an old Buick hubcap, 15-inch. So my plan next summer is I'm going to buy the junkyard, just find a 15-inch rim. This will snap on. It's just a snap-on hubcap deal. And make my hose reel out of that, and I think it'll be kind of neat looking. So another tire, good old classic here, tire swing. Pretty straightforward. Drill holes, run your whole rope. Got an eye bolt up there. Make sure you use a great big one. See what else? Okay, so this here, kind of a tree fort thing. So the first thing you see flopping in the wind is the tarp. That was free. Somebody gave it to me, but it didn't work out. Ripped through the top. But that's not all bad because it was free, so not a big loss. So then here again, most of this now. Here again, more of that same, just dunnage, pallet wood, whatever. I did buy a few 2x4s. You want to go up in your playhouse, Bubba? Can you go up there? Son just woke up from a nap. So, bought a couple 2x4s. Not much. Mostly stuff I had laying around, and then this free dunnage. And then the paint, we made a whitewash, basically, except obviously it's blue and red, and there's kind of a, I think that's tan, if you want to call it that. But we got all of this paint. We weren't too picky about the color necessarily. She just wanted it to be bright and colorful and fun looking. So we bought the mistake paint. It's like $3 a gallon. So all that we bought for this, you see the hinge on the door, we bought that. We bought the paint, $3 a gallon, so you got $9 there. And a surprisingly large number of screws. And then one sheet of plywood. You can't really tell anymore, they're both kind of weathered now. But one of these sheets of plywood I had just sitting around for years, didn't use. The other one I bought. So I bought, a pound of screws, like 2 8-foot 2x4s basically, and $10 worth of paint. So total investment for this playland, which is actually fairly large, and the kid really enjoys it. Actually, all the kids around here enjoy it. But total investment into this thing is about $15 and some time. See, walk up front here. I think kind of my last thing to look at here is we didn't have anywhere to put our trash cans, but we had this old crib that we weren't using. Close that so water gets out of it. But old crib we weren't using. Turns out the trash cans fit in there real nice. But that's just kind of some recycling, repurposing I've done. And I hope you guys can hear this.